prior to that, we were losing our connection with our farmers, and now that we've been put in a position where, you know, the big provider was no longer able to provide vegetables in any sort of reasonable way or price, well, suddenly the only place that we can get the good quality stuff is the people that we should have been supporting all along in every way. So Krafty Kitchen, Orchard Room, next door. Krafty is contemporary Canadian comfort cuisine, which means we use a lot of local products to make things hearty and warming and try to find emotional connections from our childhood to develop and bring into dishes. And then Orchard Room, a couple doors down, is inspired Yucatan cuisine with a uniquely Havana kind of feel. So we take inspiration from the body of water in between Cuba and Mexico and kind of inspired by what the cuisine would be like there. We'll be doing a dish with some local kimchi from Moonstone Ferments, asparagus, some Lightfoot Farms kale, pork from British Columbia that we've brined and cooked slowly for 12 hours overnight that we're going to finish on the grill. So we're just going to make a dish that's really inspired by spring, what's in season right now. And our objective with the asparagus is we're going to char it, and the sweetness of good quality asparagus is balanced out by the bitterness of the char. Asparagus, radish, kimchi, a jus with a little bit of soy, has a, what would you say, typical like Korean flavors, but all locally made. Chris Shafton, chef owner, Krafty Kitchen and Bar and Orchard Room. Cooking locally, it encompasses accountability and responsibility. So the way that I view the cuisine and what we make, it's you know, there's a few different elements that come into play. One, supporting the local economy. Two, serving food that's more nutritionally dense. And three, serving food that's sustainable. Ultimately, if you're cooking in season and you're using local products, you're at least servicing two, if not all three of these, just on the basis that, you know, food from somebody's garden nearby is more nutritionally dense than food that's out in a truck for 2 weeks. Exporting foods or profits out of your community, it's not good in any capacity. So when I look to create a menu item, I look to be responsible to my community, the people who are dining here, and also like the education of our staff. And you know, I think that there's a holistic element to cooking seasonally and cooking locally that's important as well. Like, being that I grew up in Alberta, I mean, we have amazing root vegetables in Alberta, and in the Okanagan we kind of have this weirdness where not enough people use the fundamental ingredients in their cuisine from local purveyors. So like celery, carrots, onions, potatoes, all produced, if not specific to this community, within 500 kilometers within Western Canada. And canola oil, as we were just talking about it, like, you know, it's the Canadian oil. It's a huge product. Like we devote massive amounts of farmland to it, and yet there's a lot of people that don't understand that is a local product and they should be using it. So the reason you don't see wild animals on the menu is because we aren't allowed to serve meat that's not federally inspected or been processed through an abattoir that has federal inspection. Large processing facilities that deal with slaughter and processing of animals over the years have lobbied the government to increase the amount of maybe like rules and regulatory elements that they have to abide by to force small abattoirs to close down. So unfortunately, you know, we only end up having animals that are accessible to purchase that are raised in big ranches. So there are game meats, or what would be traditionally game meats, that you can purchase as a chef, but most of that it's not as flavorful as its wild counterpart, and its wild counterpart you can't serve on a restaurant menu unless you can get it processed through an abattoir. So I know in British Columbia there are some small abattoirs that will still take your hunted meat and they can certify it, but that's not available in most of Canada. So it's just something that's kind of being forced out year after year. It's a great question why we can't just go fish from the lake, why I can't as a chef take a course to be certified as somebody who can say, hey, I can tell a fresh fish and I can serve it in my restaurant, and I should be able to take on the risks and the rewards of something like that, being that my business rides on my ability to tell fresh fish, whether I get it from a purveyor who's buying from a certified fishing boat, or I'm buying off somebody off a dock. Yeah, I certainly believe that we could have a system that supports natural food better if we left the responsibility on the people who are actually serving it, and then set up a system to give them the opportunity to be licensed or educated to make the right decision. But probably if people would consider they don't need to eat as much meat, and that when things taste sweet, it means they're bad for them. Other than fruits that are naturally sweet, I just mean like people consume way too much sugar, and when you eat sugar all the time, your palate looks for sweet, instead of your palate should be looking for tonics and health in food. So savory, bitter, sour, things that actually are alkalizing and good for your body. So I wish people spent more time worrying about finding things that taste nutritionally dense. So like the kale that we made tastes super good, but you can go buy kale that doesn't taste anything like that. And the difference is the nutrients, and you can taste that. And if you train your palate to actually appreciate quality food, you don't want to eat bad food. COVID-19 put us in a position where we had to lay off all our staff. We went from scaling up, going into spring, getting really excited for an amazing year for both our restaurants, to laying 24 people off. We had to get creative, and immediately I just decided, I said, we're not gonna take this laying down. We're gonna actually get out there and hustle and diversify. So we immediately started implementing changes to the way we operate, including rolling out a website that had fully integrated merchant processing for takeout and delivery orders. Mm-hmm. We rehired our staff to cook the orders, and we rehired more staff to do deliveries. We had never done takeout. We'd refused to do takeout because I'm a chef and I have this ego, as so many chefs do. And I said, my food won't be served in takeout containers. No, that's disgusting. I want people eating food in the dining room, because the ambiance is half the experience. And of course, had to eat a little bit of humble pie on that one, and swallow my pride, and look at the business and say, what changes do we need to make as a business? And so through the 2.5 months that we saw closure, we were able to stay afloat and remain at least neutral. We now have considered many, many other ways to diversify our revenue stream to ultimately strengthen our business in case something happens again. And we're also looking at long-term changes to the way that our business is structured, as our whole industry, I think, has been sick for a long time, and every year it gets harder and harder to make money out of restaurants. Minimum wage goes up, cost of goods goes up, cost of fuel goes up, the quality staff go down, and owners are left just holding the bag, which every year gets shaved thinner and thinner and thinner. So we're looking to change in a way where the business is at the table with the staff, and we're in a socialist environment. With that, we've started looking more towards local purveyors. But as the business grows, it gets harder and harder to rely on small purveyors. And then when we look at it again and we're pulling ourselves back, we end up, investing ourselves back into the roots, which is a socialistic system where we support each other, we take accountability, and there's responsibility behind every decision we make, for our staff, for the people in our community, for our health, and for the financial viability of the business. Because those things have to come together, Eat and trust that we're doing everything as safely and responsibly as we can. So it's been a humbling process, and it's been emotional, and it's been very, very awakening spiritually in many ways, where we see the support of the people in our community, and it actually ignites our fire to do right by them and to give them what they need, because they're taking care of us. And I think we just pull together.